Hey, what's up everybody? It's Alby, and today we're going to be cracking the second pack of my Aether Revolt prize packs. We're going to go ahead and talk about where I would draft all the cards in this pack, and just help you guys try and do a little bit better in your sealed events, draft events, just overall limited events. And we're going to go ahead and bust open this pack. I will get back to you as soon as the pack is open. Okay, so the first card we have here is a card that I do like. It's the Dawn Feather Eagle for 4 colorless and 1 white. You get a 3/3 flyer. But when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. It's really good if you're in a nice like red-white beatdown deck and you just keep racing with your opponent back and forth, trying to do more damage to one another. Getting vigilance really helps with that race. Can kind of mess with their head about like blocks or whatever when they come to swing back in. I really like this card. Also, just the 3/3 flyer for 5 is not the greatest, but it's something that you'll definitely play in draft and sealed. So I do like this card. I think it's quite good. Yeah, definitely something that I'm not looking to first pick, but then I'm looking to pick up, at a later point in the draft to help out my red white or just any white deck in general. The next card here is an Embrawl Gear Smasher. This is 2 colorless and 1 red for a 2/3 human warrior, and then you can tap and sack an artifact to have Embrawl Gear Smasher deal 2 damage to each opponent. And also, I should just clarify really quick because I said that kind of weird. You have to tap the Embrawl Gear Smasher as well. It's not just tapping the artifact to sack the artifact. Just so clarifications can sometimes be very helpful when it comes to these cards. I don't know how I feel about this card in an artifact heavy deck. It's pretty strong. The deck that I was running that used him didn't exactly have the most artifacts in it, so he was kind of lackluster. Wasn't exactly the greatest, but I think he's a fine card if you're in enough, if you have enough artifacts in your deck. But not something that we're looking to take too highly out of this pack. Next card is probably one of the best of this cycle. I would say probably possibly even the second best of this cycle. This is the Aether Swooper for 1 colorless and 1 blue. You get a 1/2 flyer, and then when he enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy, and when he attacks, you may pay 2 energy to create a colorless servo token. So the plan is to play him out on turn 2, and then on turn 3, you're going to play your 3-drop as well as attack with this guy. You're going to get in for damage and create the servo. So you'll have all 3. So you'll have 3 creatures on turn 3. Pretty solid with the Aether Swooper. Nothing too crazy, but just a good, solid common. The next card is Night Market Aeronaut. So he has 3 colorless and 1 black for a 2/2 flyer, but he has Revolt, which says that he enters with a +1/+1 counter on it if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn. So I'm not sure how I feel about this guy. He has the potential to be a 4/4 or a 3/3 flyer in black for 4, which isn't too bad. It's not great though. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. But yeah, on to the next card. Here we have Aether Herder. This is 3 colorless and 1 black from the same cycle as the Aether Swooper. This is enters the battlefield, or sorry, it's 3 colorless and 1 green for a 3/3. Enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy, and then whenever it attacks, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. I often found myself cutting this from the green decks that I found with Aether Revolt because there's so many other good green cards at the 4-drop slot. That this one was kind of like the worst of them, but it's still a really solid card if you can pick it up for something like draft, or if you have just like a nice energy deck going on. You can create more than just the additional servo that you would expect to come with it. Next card is an interesting card. I don't know how I feel about it. It's Renegade's Getaway, 2 colorless and 1 black for an instant. Target permanent gains indestructible until end of turn. Create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. This card reminds me a lot of Make Mischief from back in Eldritch Moon. I wasn't really a fan of Make Mischief in Eldritch Moon, and I don't think I'm too much of a fan of Renegade's Getaway. I feel like it can be a blowout if you play this card and then give your creature indestructible, and then you get a 1/1 colorless servo. They don't play anything, and you swing back for lethal on the crackback with the creature that you gave indestructible plus the servo. I don't see that happening very often, though, so personally, not a huge fan of this card. I think right now, first pick in this pack is either Dawn Feather Eagle or the Aether Swooper. But definitely not the Renegade's Getaway. Here's a card that I do like. It's a very good, solid card. Not something we're looking to first pick, but this is the Watchful Automaton. 3 colorless for a 2/2 artifact creature construct. And then for 2 colorless and 1 blue, you can scry 1. This card is very good because with the blue decks, you're definitely going to go into the late game. So being able to just, if you don't draw, like, your big blue bomb, you can go ahead and just pay some mana at the end of your opponent's turn to just scry a few times, see if maybe you can find your bomb, or at least, maybe a kill spell to kill your opponent. You don't want to be playing this, or you don't want to be using the ability to scry if you have the chance to just play a creature instead. But personally, I think it's a very good card, and if you're in blue, I definitely like this Watchful Automaton. I think that it's the best of the Automaton cycle, in my opinion. Speaking of the Automaton cycle, here we have the white Automaton. This is Aegis Automaton. For 2 colorless, you get a 0/3, and then for 4 colors and 1 white, you can return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. I'm personally not a fan of it. I know some people are, because it gives you the possibility to remove things like pacifism effects from your creatures. The only thing I don't like about that is that you then have to recast the spell. It gives you the chance to use, or to get enter the battlefield triggers twice, which is something, but 5 mana is a lot. And I would much rather be using my mana to scry with the Watchful Automaton than I would to be returning threats off of the board and back to my hand. Here we have just a nice little 2/2 Countless Gears Renegade. This is 1 colorless and 1 white for a 2/2 Dwarf Artificer with Revolt. So when it enters the battlefield, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, and you can create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact. Personally, I found myself just playing this out on turn 2 as a 2/2 for 2. Just something in there, something that can get in there for 2 damage. The servo isn't too important when it comes to this guy. I would much rather be playing him on turn 2 and not getting the Revolt trigger. Next card we have here is Implement of Ferocity. So this is 1 colorless for an artifact, and then you can pay 1 green and sacrifice it to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Activate this ability only anytime you would cast a sorcery, and then whenever it is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you can draw a card. I kind of like this one. You can go ahead and just buff up one of your creatures and then draw a card for 1 mana later in the game. I like it. I ran one of them in a green-red aggro deck that I played at the pre-release. It's just a really solid card. I like it. Not something we're looking to first pick, this early, because I feel like most people aren't going to be taking the implements too highly. I think the green one is probably the best one. It's either the green, blue, or black one. And I think for now, this early on in the format, it seems like things are going to be really, really aggro. Sorry about that. It seems like things are going to be really, really aggro in the format, so I think I'm going to go with the implement. Ferocity, the green one here, as the best implement, because it buffs up one of your creatures and can really help you win a damage race. And we just opened a great uncommon. This is definitely going to become the first pick unless we open up some crazy rare. This is the Scrapper Champion, 3 colorless and 1 red for a 2/2 Human Artificer with double strike. And when it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. When it attacks, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Really, really good card. If they don't kill it right away, then the next turn you're attacking with a 3/3 double strike. If they don't block it, they're taking 6 damage. If they do block it, it's most likely going to kill whatever does block it, because with double strike, you're doing 3 damage during first strike too. So if they block it with, just something small, you're probably going to kill it during first strike damage. Putting pump spells on this thing is insane. There's the 2 mana one, the 1 colorless and 1 red, where you can give target creature +4/+0 and trample, or 2 target creatures +2/+0 and trample. If you give this guy +4/+0 and trample along with the double strike, it's insane. Absolutely ridiculous. Easy way to win games. So I'm definitely going to be first picking this Scrapper Champion based on the cards that we've seen so far in this pack. Here's another nice card that I played at the pre-release. This is Renegade Wheelsmith, 1 colorless, a red, and a white mana for a Dwarf Pilot 3/2. And then whenever he becomes tapped, target creature can't block this turn. So you can use him to tap your vehicle, or crew up your vehicle, and then say that a creature can't block this turn, and then you just swing in with your creatures. Very good card. Even if you don't want to use him to crew your vehicles and you just want to attack with him, it still works pretty well, and you can get in 3 nice damage with this guy. Even though it is only 1 target creature, it still helps when you're, racing your opponent. I think it's a good card. Not as good as the Scrapper Champion. but I think it's a very good card. Here we have an interesting card, Enraged Giant, for 5 colorless and 1 red. You get a 4/4 with Trample and Haste, and it also has Improvise, so you can make it cheaper by tapping your artifacts. I do like this card, however, I didn't open any of them in my pre-release, and I didn't see anyone play with this card at the pre-release, so I don't truly know how good it is, but I can only assume that it would be good. A 4/4 Trample Haste for 6 isn't the greatest, but there's always going to be random artifacts just lying around. So if you can play this guy as a 4/4 Trample Haste for 4 mana, that's, incredible. I would definitely take a 4/4 Trample Haste for 4 mana. That would be great. I definitely like the Scrapper Champion better, though, more than this Enraged Giant. And this is our last uncommon, so we're on to the rare now, and our rare is Heroic Intervention. So this is 1 colorless and 1 green. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. I'm not sure how I feel about this card, which I feel like I'm saying about a lot of cards. However, it's a very new format, so I'm not truly sure about how I'm supposed to feel about some of these cards. I like this card because it can lead to some, very big blowout situations where you set up, these great blocks after your opponent swings in, and then you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, my stuff is indestructible. Or if you play out some, crazy bomb and then they're just like, I'm gonna kill it, you can be like, nope, 2 mana, hexproof, can't kill it this turn. So I definitely do like this card. The Scrapper Champion, though, is just probably the best uncommon in the set. There's a lot of people that believe that, and I got to play with this card, and I truly believe that it is one of the best uncommons in the set. So I think here I'm going to be first picking this Scrapper Champion. However, I could definitely see taking either the Renegade Wheelsmith, Enraged Giant, or Heroic Intervention if the Scrapper Champion was not in this pack. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you are not subscribed yet. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Tell me down below in the comments your opinions on the cards in this pack. Tell me what you would have first picked, as well as tell me your opinions on my opinions on this pack. If you guys think that the things I said were correct, if you guys think the things I said were incorrect, let me know down below in the comments. We'll have a nice discussion. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching the video. Peace.